Good day, everyone. This time I'm just going to be doing something a little bit different to something that I might normally do. For those of you that don't know, I've been working on a relatively large homebrew, which involves a race which is kind of insectoid in nature, and thus they have four arms as opposed to two. So I kind of want to talk about the implications that that would have on a player race. So the first assumption that somebody might make when they speak about a character having four arms is, oh, they must be twice as strong because, you're multiplying the number of limbs that they have. So, while that makes sense, you should probably think about it in this way. When a human has one arm, as in they're born with one arm, generally what will happen is as they develop, that arm will naturally become stronger to compensate for the lack of the opposite limb. I remember a story by my primary school IT teacher who he was born with one arm, the other one was sort of akin to a chicken leg. I don't remember it properly, it's been a while, but he was born with one arm and he told us a story one day about when he was being bullied and he went up to the other kid and picked them up with his one arm. So you sort of get where I'm coming from with that, right? It's like, okay, so his arm is stronger than it would normally be. Like, it might not be full-blooded Olympian strong, so, he wouldn't be able to compete on that level, but it'd still be significantly stronger than the arm of your average individual. So taking this into consideration, we can assume that if a creature is then born with four arms, they would be slightly weaker than normal in each individual arm. However, they might still end up being stronger overall. So let's take the race that I'm currently working on, for example. As I said, they're sort of based off of insects, so the butterfly specifically, so they have four arms. If we look at ants and how much an ant can actually carry, we can figure, okay, yeah, insects are relatively strong for their size. So as opposed to applying something like each arm can carry 0.5, so half of what a normal human's arm would be able to carry, they can say 75%, so 3/4. So with the forearms, they do end up stronger, but instead of being twice as strong, they're only stronger by a half. So say that I could lift 10 kilograms with two arms, I can then lift 15 with four. On small creatures, because of the increase in strength, you might be thinking to yourself, well, maybe they can wield heavy weapons. So, without the disadvantage, so like a great sword or something. Which does make a little bit of sense when you're only thinking about the weight, but we still have the length to worry about, so something like a polearm might not pose as much of an issue because it's mostly just a thrusting motion. Whereas that depend on the polearm, obviously. Whereas with something like a greatsword or a halberd, it'd be, slicing and cutting or overhead, which could definitely get in the way, especially with a smaller creature, because they'd need to either hold it further up, which then renders this useless and would significantly reduce, where they can swing, or it would be too large and they'd only be able to pull back so far before following through. But other things that they might benefit from with having four arms would be the ability to wield multiple weapons. So even if you have the dual wielding features working exactly the same as normal, so when you make an attack with your main hand, you can then use it as a bonus action to make one with your offhand. You could still potentially have a little bit of a break there, where the creature can have four different enchanted weapons, each with a different damage type, and just be like stab, 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 stab. Your resistances mean nothing to me because I can overcome it anyway. What you could do to sort of circumvent that would be to obviously maybe make it so that the weapons are light, or something along those lines. I don't know. For me, I specifically made it so that they can wield a light weapon in each hand if they want to. However, they cannot use multiple weapons with a shield, or a weapon that takes two hands to wield with a shield, so they can't like a versatile longsword with a shield. Because when you think about it, it wouldn't be like normal where you would wield it, with one hand or the other hand like this. Actually, that feels more comfortable, so it's probably like that. It'd be like, to get it properly, because the shield would still be in the way of the lower arm, so it'd be like, it's really awkward to get it over there, so while it might be possible, it'd be really awkward, and even then, same thing, like, if they're on the same side, then holding it like that's going to be really awkward and probably wouldn't work properly. They could also technically, in theory, dual wield multiple two-handed weapons, but at the same time, that would sort of have the same issue where it's like, okay, I have this thing, then now crossed over, it's getting really awkward and in the way to work like this, so that wouldn't work, and I can fully expect why people would expect it to work, but it in theory wouldn't work. However, what they could do, which makes it a really potent ability, is they could have a shield and a weapon, as well as a free hand for somatic components, and then another free hand for materials. Which actually is pretty insane when you think about it, because it takes away half of the need for the Warcaster feat. Like, you'd still be able to pick it up for, reaction spells and all that, but it is technically taking away half of that for these characters specifically, because they have that innate capability of holding multiple items that a two-armed character wouldn't actually be able to. You then get into things like climbing and all that. Climbing and lifting things, carrying things, stuff like that. Now, I'm not talking carrying things like on your back, because that'd be a bit different. I don't really think it'd impact encumbrance all that much, although if it is based off of an insect, then it might. However, for something like trying to, lift a rock because it's crushing someone, you might grant them advantage on that if they're using all of their arms, because they might be able to, use both of their both pairs or just one pair to lift things. They've probably done it in the past and they'd have the capability to do so. Same with climbing. In theory, they could technically be holding onto something or holding onto a small weapon and stabbing somebody while still climbing, and it wouldn't really have much impact on their ability to climb. However, if they're climbing with all four arms, then they would technically have advantage because, they'd have more limbs to grab hold of with, etc., etc. So that's just some things to think about for characters with four hands. You might not agree with me, you might think that I've missed a couple things, but that's really what I found when trying to develop this in a relatively balanced sense. So I'm just going to leave it at that. If you enjoyed, then please let me know. If not, also let me know, tell me how I can improve. Other than that, I guess enjoy your day. If you haven't yet, there should still be some time to enter to win at least one set of dice, as long as it's currently before the 29th of June. Then you should be able to at least go and win one set of dice. There should be a thing right about there. That'll tell you. Cheers, and I might see you next time.